Hello everyone. Hi everyone. Please silence your phone so that we can concentrate on this session. Hello, greetings from MAHSA Aptitude International College. My name is Mohamad. I'm a student at Certificate in Business, School of Business and Accountancy. Feels honored today for the opportunity to be here with the audience and viewers. Social media and some interesting sharing sessions with our special guest speaker. Today's session is so special as we invited top management leader to share some of his knowledge and experience on skill set leader in digital age from industry perspective. Let me give some brief introduction on our speaker, Mr. Mohamad Kamal Nawawi, Chief Executive Officer, CEO at Axiata Foundation. Mr. Kamal is an experienced senior executive with a demonstrated history working in the education management and competencies development industry. In addition, he possesses strong business development, professional skills in business planning, analytical skills, talent management, and development performance management. Besides, he has such an outstanding career for Mohamad Kamal Nawawi to the floor to present his speech on skill set for the leader in digital age from the industry perspective. Please welcome Mr. Mohamad Kamal.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi. Very good morning, representatives of the MAHSA Aptitude International College. First of all, thank you very much, and I'm honored to be invited this morning to address you all this morning. My daughter, when I woke up this morning early, and I wasn't dressed in my usual golf attire, asked me, Papa, why are you not in your golf attire? I said, today I'm doing something better, which is talking to students and hoping to share my experience with all of you. And again, thank you very much for inviting me. Let me just introduce a little bit myself, and I'll do that. Yes. Right. First of all, again, thank you for the introduction. I am, as it says, this now Chief Executive Officer of Axiata Foundation, which is a foundation under the auspices of the Axiata Group. How many of you know what is Axiata Group? Show of hands. Okay. When we say Axiata Group, a lot of people usually don't know who we are. But when we say Celcom, a lot of people know, because Celcom obviously is the operating company under Axiata in Malaysia. But actually, we have what we call our three key businesses. All right, we have what we call our digital. Work on this, please. We have what we call our digital telcos. We also have our digital businesses, and the third prong is what we call our infrastructure business. A lot of people don't know this too. They know the first one, right? A lot of people know and are familiar with this logo, not the other logos. So let me just, because Axiata pays my salary, I've got to tell you about them. Number one, of course, like I said, in digital telco, what our aspiration is we want to transform what has been known as mobile-centric telcos. I mean, we usually all our operating telcos work on this device, right, which is the mobile. But what we want to convert our mobile telcos into are what we call converged digital operators. Because the digital world today is not just about this. There are a lot of other digital devices and all that that comes into play as well. And that's the business we're going in, right? And our ambition is to become number one or number two in all our markets. So when we operate in, aside from Malaysia, we operate in 5 other markets. We are in Indonesia under Excel Axiata. We are in Bangladesh under Robi. We are in Sri Lanka under Dialog. And we are in Nepal under Encel, as well as in Cambodia under Smart. So those are our mobile or other digital telcos, right? And like I said, the aspiration is to become either number one or number two in the market. In Malaysia, we are now a far distant to a Celcom. Of course, number one is always Maxis. But with, I hope all of you have also heard there's a merger happening between Celcom and Digi. So with Celcom and Digi being merged, hopefully by the end of the year, we will then become number one in Malaysia. Right? Our other business is our digital businesses. Digital businesses mean, for example, Boost. How many of you use Boost? Very good, thank you very much. Boost, of course, is a lead platform for e-commerce and all that. We are also Aspirasi. Aspirasi does microloans, right, for businesses, as well as ADA. ADA does digital advertising. Okay. So those are our digital businesses. The ambition or aspiration for our digital businesses is to create 2 unicorns by 2024. And since there our vision for Axiata Group is to become the next generation digital champion by 2024. Our third business is infrastructure. There's only one company under that business, which is what we call E.co. Any of you have heard of E.co? All right, great. E.co obviously is the tower company in Malaysia, but it also operates in 7 other countries like Pakistan, Myanmar, Bangladesh, and all that, right? So what it does is it builds the towers for our telecommunication companies, right? As well as other telecommunications companies that operates in all the markets that we're in. And the ambition for the E.co is to advance from regional champion of what we are today to global champion and to become top 5 in the world. We're currently 7th in the world. Digital skills for digital leaders digital leader skills for digital age, right? Let me talk to you a little bit about what the digital age is about. We play a little game very early Sunday morning. Let's look at the picture on the screen. You can see the screen. Right? Okay, let's pick one. How many of you know what this is? Can somebody shout what this is? Yellow pages. How many of you don't know what yellow pages are? Show hands. How many people don't know what yellow pages are? Don't be shy, it's okay. If you don't know what yellow pages are, obviously you're very young. Which is fine, which is good. Yellow pages, is somebody who knows what yellow pages are, tell us what yellow pages do? Right. Yellow pages is a thick book where all the phone numbers of people in the area, right? So you'll have several yellow pages. You have, well, initially I think it was this one. would list all the phone numbers of people in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, in Sarawak, in Sabah, Kedah, their phone numbers. There was no privacy act at that time, right? You can just look up Ashraf's name before the life then, and you would know his phone number, and you would call. Because he would have to be at home though. If he's outside in the shop, he wouldn't reach him, right? Because the phone is the household number, right? That's your locators. You don't know this. Voice recorder, right? That's a voice recorder. This one, teachers would know this. OHP, right? The overhead projector. OHP, overhead projector. Students, do you know that? Students don't know that. Never seen that in your life. How many people know this? Typewriter, all right. Most of you would see this in antique shops now, right? You don't see it in houses anymore. This one, it's a calculator. Okay. Most of you would see in some version. This one, Encyclopedia Britannica, basically, right? Salesmen used to go door to door to sell this, right? They'll knock on your door and say, "We're selling Encyclopedia Britannica." What do you find in encyclopedias? I don't know how many volumes. This is 18 volumes. Yeah, no, I think it's 35 volumes or something. 35 volumes of encyclopedia. What do you find in them? Everything you want to know, actually. Right? Okay. This is the camera. Some people still use this. What is it?
Pager.
Oh, very good. I thought this was mine. This was the first to be mine. Okay, still a lot of people know, some people know this pager. What do pagers do?
Communication.
Salesmen used to carry this with a belt. You know how it works? If head office, if you're traveling salesman, if head office wants to contact you, they will send a beep to your pager. Right? So it will beep. It says call home office. Then you have to go and find a phone booth, get coins and call home office. Right? That's what a pager does. Have you seen this before?
Yes.
Where does this go? This goes inside here, right? This is film. Right? Last time when you wanted to take photos with this camera, first of all you had to buy this. This came in 12, 24, or 36. Reels, right? 12, 24, or 36. That means you can take 12 pictures, or 24 pictures, or 36. But some people know the trick to actually get 2 extra from each. So sometimes you get 40, 36, or 38. What's interesting is you've got to see the camera has got a flip at the back. You've got to open it up, put that in, and make sure that this little other holes, there's actually a small clip at the end of the flip back, right? That you've got to put in, right? And then you close it, and then you've got to turn it so that then the film will go. Sometimes what happens is, you don't put it in the right hole, so you go ahead and you take pictures, right? Because you can't see what the picture is. You just have to take the picture and pray hard that it becomes nice. Nowadays, what do? Flip your phone, selfie, right? You don't like it, you take another one. You don't like it, you take another one. Then you say, freestyle. So where does this go now? This becomes specialist too. Right? A lot of people who are into photography and all that. So most of the time, if you don't put this in the right slot and all that, you keep taking pictures. What happens is you open it up to, you've got to go to a proper Photoshop, right? To develop this. And what happens is sometimes you didn't put it in the right place, you open it up, you actually didn't take any pictures at all, right? So your memory is all gone. But with this, I have got, let's see, I've got my Google album as well, but the 3,700 over photos, right? Some I haven't even seen. because my daughters, they use my phone. Last one, this one.
Nintendo.
Yeah, for gaming. Some, I think, the PS, whatever number now, still has them, right? All right, what do all this have in common?
Technologies.
What do all this have in common? They have, sorry? They are no longer used. They've all been replaced. They've all been replaced by one device. Right? They've all been replaced by one device, which is this. Well, not only these brands, but I'm not trying to sell the phones. But all these devices that we showed just now have all been replaced by this. It's in your pocket, it's ever present, you pull it out, you can do everything with it. And that's the reality of the world that you as students are growing in. This is what we call the digital age. And you students who are here today are called digital natives. And people like me, they're not digital natives, they're not digital migrants. People like me, we're called digital migrants. You see my white hair, I shout it's fit. It's white, but we're not. But what are digital migrants? Digital migrants are people who, when they were born, and when they grew up, when they started working and all that, this wasn't there, right? We used to struggle with all of this, right? Digital natives are people like you who, when born, and when you go to college and then you go to work and all that, you have only this device to deal with, and all the technology in this device as well as other digital devices. Right? So the premise of this then is that you've got different and certain skills that you need to have so that you can lead in this digital age. This is different. Right? Now I'll talk to you about that a little bit. Okay, this is today's phone. Look at the evolution of the phone as well. Right? I came to work for Cellcom in the early 90s, 1994. Right? And this was the phone that was given to me as an executive. We used to say, paling tak tingkap, tingkap pecah. And you can't put it in your pocket. Right? You have to carry it around, and people think, ini security card. So this is but how it has evolved. And some of these are classics. A lot of people still have this. Right, as memorabilia, sorry. I still have this. This is the BlackBerry. Right, I still keep it in the drawer somewhere in my room. Okay, but the point of this also is that technology changes, right? And that's one of the skills that students who are going to be leading our digital age, leading in the digital age, they'll have to look at as well. Technology change and how you manage that as well, right? But before I go deeper into that, I'm also supposed to be talking about leadership and leaders and all that. And talk about that. I must have credibility, right? How am I as a leader? Just to give you a short brief of my life. Don't start calculating how old I am. I'll tell you how old I am. So 1970 to 1975, I was in primary school. I'm a Seremban boy, born in Kuala Pilah, but brought up and went to school in Seremban from 1970 to 1975. Some students are asking, how old is it? 1970 to 1975, I was in the Chinese primary school. My leadership journey started because I was the head prefect or head boy of the school, and I was also the hockey captain. Then I went to secondary school in Balakangsa, College Balakangsa, from 1976 to 1980, where my leadership skills were further honed, again being school prefect as well as captain of the debate team. 81 to 87, I went to university in the US. I went to called George Mason in Virginia. I was also part of the leadership holding, was president of the Malaysian Student Association of the university, as well as the vice president of the International Student Union. I came back to Malaysia in late 87 and went straight to work. From 1988 to 1994, I was in academia and in government schools. Right? I came back to teach in the school for about a year, and then I had a lecturer post in UKM until 1994. So I was in UKM from 1988 to 1994. And my leadership skills in the university, I was department head of the youngest department heads then in UKM, as well as the Senate member. And then my life took a little turn, and I went corporate. So from 1994 to 2004 was my first journey into the telecommunications industry. 1994 to 2004 was the peak of the digital edge at the time, right? But it wasn't this phone, it was the big phone that you threw to the company, Jalan. So I was in Celcom and then Access, where I was head of the Celcom Academy as well as head of the Access Academy then in 1994, 2004. After 2004, my life took another different turn. So after about 10 years in the telco industry, I decided to do different things in the industry, and I went into banking, I went into medical devices and all that. But my longest stint from 2005 to 2015 was actually Jalan National and Health Corporation, where I was the deputy GM in Prof, and I was director in Jalan National. Then, after 2012, my life took back the turn that I was originally and went back to education and academia. And under the auspices of a company called Equinas, or International, I was first the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Asia Pacific University in Bukit Jalil. And then I was also CEO of the Cosmo Point Group, which runs all the Cosmo Point colleges in the country, as well as my last job in academia was VC of both the Kuala Lumpur Metropolitan College and then 2.5 years as VC of UNITA International University. Right, so here we are today, 2018, 2022. I'm right back where I started, right, in the corporate life. So I'm in telecommunications again. Since 2018, I have been in the Axiata group as I said, the head of the learning as well as CEO of the Axiata Foundation. Right? So I hope this gives me credibility to talk about leadership, right? I talk to students today about what it takes to become a leader in the digital age. Let me share a little bit first what I term as the 3 A's of the development in the journey of leadership. Right? Sorry, but my mantra was probably the slide from another talk. Okay. Right. The 3 A's of development in the leadership journey is what I call managing the 3 A's. Right? The first one is what we call managing aptitude, right? And managing aptitude mainly is about the basics that are needed to enter the door. And it's also about academic qualifications. Aptitude is about this, right? About academic qualifications, about intelligence and all that. So it involves skills, competencies, prerequisites to get in the job or to get in to play, as they call it, right? And it also has got to do, managing aptitude also has got to do with having integrity, being honest, knowing wrong versus right? And this is really what is known as IQ, right? Or intelligent quotient. So aptitude is about that's the basic qualification you need to get into a job. right? Whether the job requires a diploma or a degree or master's, that is what you need to do to manage your aptitude, right? It's about managing how you study, how you pass exams, and basically how you bring yourself up during your study years. Right? So that's managing. But as you go into your workplace, the managing of aptitude is still important because you've got to learn new things. You've got to be able to learn the way of working, for example, in that corporation. Right? The second A, which in my opinion is the more important managing, is the more important A, is managing attitude. Right? So a lot of people are clever, a lot of people are intelligent, right? But if you don't manage this well, especially when you're at the workplace, especially when you have to work in teams at your projects and all that in college or in university, then no matter how clever you are, if you don't manage this well, it doesn't go well as well. Right? So managing attitude is about how far you go will depend more on your attitude. It's becoming a team player, it's having energy, it's having motivation, having positive and winning attitude, right? How many people, students, especially when you're working, when your lecturer asks you to work in a group, you will always want to find people who you can work with, who are positive, who have winning attitude, who are collaborative and all that, right? You never want to work with somebody who's clever, but don't want to work with. It's not team player. Right? So this is called attitude. Build on base, and that's your building block on the basics of your qualifications. Right? And that's what this term always has, your EQ or your emotional quotient. Right? So this is basically usually what people talk about in management books and all that about motivation, just managing the two ways. I add on another A, which is managing of altitude. Right? Altitude is about as you move up in your career, as you go up, as you climb, as I said, the corporate ladder, right? When you get up there, you need to manage altitude, right? Because if you're clever, if you are able to, be a team player and all that, you usually will be successful in the corporate world or anywhere. But that's the other challenge of managing the other A, which is the altitude. Right? The bigger and often the hardest step is to manage the power, the amanah, that all kinds of people around you will depend on. Managing achievement and success sometimes is harder than managing adversity and failures. Right? So you've got to manage success and achievement because the higher up you go, as they say, it's lonely at the top, right? And as you get better and better at your job, be wary of what is known as hubris. What is hubris? You know what hubris is? Hubris is when you start believing that you are the best in a negative way. Right? In other words, what sometimes people call hubris when you start believing your own lies. Right? You start thinking there's no one better than me, I've done this, been there, right? So sombong lah. Right? Hubris is about looking down at others and thinking that you're the best. Right? There's always positivity. You always have to think that you're the best and you can go and get it. Right? We always have to manage that because the higher up you go, right, the more difficult it is for you to feel humble. And so managing attitude is about humility. It's about showing that I can work with others and I can listen to others as well. Right? So this to me becomes important, right? So AQ1 is altitude quotient and AQ2 is adversity quotient. Right? So it's managing both the height that you go to, the higher you go, the air gets thinner. Right? So don't make sure that you don't lose oxygen. And also the higher you go, there'll be a lot more adversity that you got to deal with. So this to me is the first step, right? Managing the 3 A's of your leadership journey. Managing aptitude, how clever you are, how you get through your exams, you get through your papers and all that. And then you've got to manage your attitude as you go along, as you climb the ladder. And thirdly, managing altitude. The higher up you go in your career, in your studies and all that, you've got to still put your feet on the ground, reach for the skies, but your feet must always be on the ground. Right? Okay. Next, we've got the 3A. Now we've got what I call the 3S. Right? The 3S of relationship. When you're a leader, you've always got to maintain what I call the 3S of your relationship with others. Right? So the 3S are, the first one is what I call your relationship with your creator or our creator, right? Which is your S. The first S is your S as a servant. Right? All humans are wired to serve and believe in something. Even as you lead others, you are number one, a servant and answerable to a higher authority. So always have that in your heart. Right? That you're a great leader and all that, but there's always a higher authority, higher than you are. Right? So again, this is all about related to this is the managing your attitude as well. Right? Keep this relationship strong to keep yourself strong. And this is in Islamic literature, it's called the khadim. Khadim. The word khidmat in Malay is serving, and khadim is the servant. The second S is your relationship with our fellow humans, or to be of service. Right? Not to be a servant, because you're only a servant to a creator, but you're of service to your fellow humans. Right? And the most fundamental human relationships are not just with workers, with fellow students and all that, but also to your family. So you have sons or daughters or brothers or sisters, mothers and fathers and all that. Then with other relatives, like their friends, their neighbors, there are community and so on and so forth. Ultimately, it's also about being of most help and of most service to others, right? And that's the Malay word of it's borrowed from Arabic, khidmat. So the first S was your relationship with your creator as a servant. Number 2 is your relationship with fellow human beings, which is of service, the second S. And the third is with other creation. And this is where some of the work I'm doing at the Foundation is founded on, right? Which is, so you're not just responsible for your relationship with your creator and with fellow human beings, but with other creations of the creator as well, which then not just environment, flora, fauna, and other inanimate objects. That means just also natural physical systems, and also social systems, the society, the economy, the political surroundings, right? So there must be duty of care and justice as a steward. So the other S is you as a steward, right? And in Arabic literature, or in Islamic literature, is so in Arabic and Islamic literature, instead of S, it's 3K, right? Khadim, Khidmat, and Khalifa, right? Which is you as being responsible for what the Creator has created, not just fellow human beings, but everything else on earth. A lot of the work that we do as a foundation, for example, under the environment pillar, is based on that as well. So there are issues that you can, I'm sure you've heard of climate change, of the greenhouse effect and all that. So these are because a lot of human beings don't have this strong relationship between the first S and second S. Okay, so the 3 A's, the 3 S's, right, that will hopefully then become something that you can look at and think of. I don't want to do long lectures on this, but obviously there's work that we can do to look at this. There's a lot of readings under this as well, right? That you can start looking at as well. Finally, get a little bit into the digital skills. This is from the NCFE, or the National Council for the Education of the UK. and this becomes the basic standard for essential digital skills. Right? This has been around since 2012. Actually. So what are the 5 essential digital skills that everyone must have according to NCFE? Is number 1, you know how to use devices and not just this, right? All digital devices and handling information, computers, laptops, right? So you know how to use them, you know, a lot of people know how to turn it on and use your mouse and all that. But there was a survey, I can't remember how I was reading this a few months back. There was a survey done on students in the UK on the use of their laptops and applications within. On average, all the students that were surveyed, right, only used up to actually just out of 100%. How many percent do you think students are able to use the full usage of the laptop? How is that? Can you guess? 20? Close. 30%. Right? So there are a lot more applications, a lot more use of the device that people can't use or don't know how to use, right? So in the UK, they have this assessment when you go into colleges and all that, to look at how well you can use devices and handling of information, right? The number 2 skills in digital is creating and editing. Right? Means you use Word applications, you use PowerPoint, whatever, Excel and all that to create and edit. Right? There's so many now, right? The applications to create and edit. So look at those skills and learn them, right? The third digital skill is communicating, right? So it's emails, it's a lot of social media and all that, right? And how do you communicate effectively on all these different media that you have digitally? The fourth one is transacting, right? Your e-pay lah, your e-commerce lah, your order shopping lah, and all that. Right? So these are all transactions that are being done now digitally. The e-wallet, right? E-payments, and all that. Everything is E in front, right? Okay. So transacting is the other skill. And finally, most importantly, is being safe and responsible online. A lot of people go in. The internet is a huge world. It has a dark side as well. Right? And one of the work that we're doing under the Axiata Foundation is making sure under our Axiata digital leadership skills for schools, for universities, as well as for young professionals, we do what we call the ADLP, Axiata Digital Leader Program. We make sure that when people go online, they know how to be responsible online and they know how to save online. So these are the 5 skills. Learn them well, understand them, and look at what you already know of this and improve yourself in all the time. Next. Okay, I took this from a recent book that I just read. This is from a professor who used to be in Malaysia, Professor Aptitude. This is a very recent book. According to the book, the job is easy, the people are not. And she speaks about top 10 smart skills for digital leaders or leaders of the digital age. Again, I won't go into all of the 10. Some of these 10 actually have covered in the 3 A's and the 3 S, right? Emotional maturity, for example, is part of the EQ, right? Cognitive readiness is part of your managing aptitude, right? And continuous learning and all that. Followership, where is that? Remember? Where that's connected to my 3A or 3S is in the 7-ship as well, right? Followership, right? And then, of course, humility is managing of altitude. Okay. But here are some which I thought were quite new in terms of how she looked at it, right? This is quite new in the sense, productive inclusion. How many of you have heard of the term DEI? Diversity, equity, and inclusivity. Right? That's a new term. Oh, it's a new level. Productive inclusion is about including all different perspectives from all different you know, whether it's gender, whether it's race, whether it's whatever it is, it's diversity, right? And productive inclusion is being able to look at all these perspectives and choosing the right ones as a leader for you to advance, right? Advance the company. And this is one of the most difficult skills to hold, right? Because you always have what we call unconscious bias. Right? Unconscious bias, but you are not conscious about it, but sometimes because of the environment, because of how you grew up and all that, there is always racial biasness, there's always gender biasness. Sometimes we use that in our speech without us thinking about it. Right? But productive inclusion is about getting over those barriers and making sure that whatever decision you're making, whatever you know, perspective that you're looking at, right? You are including all this, but are able to sift all through the noise and all through the obstacles and say, that's the right one that I want to use and decide on, right? So I invite you to, well, first of all, if you can, go to buy the book, but it's also available online. You can take it, and go a bit deeper into what productive inclusion is. The other one that I want to talk about is multiple perspectives. It's closely related, right? But you're able to also then look at not just your perspective, but other people's perspectives. Understanding your team members, understanding people in your group, and understanding what they are about and what their cause is, right? And then, which is again closely related to this other skill, which is actually the most difficult skill to hold and to keep going. Listening. The most easiest skill to hold and keep going is actually the opposite of this, which is speaking. Because once you get the mic and you like speaking, you can speak. Right? But listening is a totally different skill altogether. And that's what's needed as we grow in this digital age as well. Right? So I mean, then just repeat a little bit. These are what I would call the technical skills of the digital age, right? What we need to be able to do. These are next one, the soft skills of the digital age, right? That you need to put as you grow and lead in this digital age. Lastly, I'd like to just share how we at Axiata have taken a lot of this. There's a lot of literature, to be honest. I've chosen two, but there's a lot of literature on this, on leading the digital age. We have, since 2020, put all this together in Axiata in a framework called our People Quality Framework. Basically, what it is this is what we look for in people that work in Axiata. This is what we call Axiata Way. And we hold these skills as people work in our organizations. Right? So we divide that into number one, which is most important, is people who work for us must fit in the Axiata culture. What's Axiata culture? Axiata culture is about being digital, being agile, being adaptable, right? And being collaborative. We're able to work across, because like I said, like we saw just now, we work across 6 different countries, we work across different nationalities and races and all that. So you've got the culture to fit to work in our organization. This is what we call our core values, UI and EP. UI is our value in terms of integrity, uncompromising integrity. In whatever we do, we must have integrity, right? And EP is extraordinary performance. So we always look for to hold our skills so that we can perform extraordinarily. Okay? And each of our operating companies will have their own core values as well to add on to the UI and EP. And we further then divide the skills that we're looking for into 4 quadrants, right? These are the collective skills across everyone in Axiata skill or build their skills in this. These are the leading skills, and some of this, as you read, you will see that connected to the 3 A's and 3 S, as well as the digital skills and all that stuff. This is something that we added in, and as I said, it is the big F was actually renewed or reviewed in 2020. We added these 2 skills, like digital mindset and data analytics. Right? These are 2 most important skills in Axiata, at least, for us to advance and achieve our goal of becoming digital champion by 2024, which is just 2 years away. And in the digital age, 2 years is a century. A lot of things have happened, a lot of things have changed. So this is what I do in my other job, which is the group learning care, right? And a lot of the things that we do here are delivered via the platform as well. Right? Hey, I'd like to end this with, and I always like quotes. Who's going to, I've got a lot of books that I read, and I take quotes from those books. And I'll just want to share with you my 7 favorite sayings or quotes on leading a man with serving. One is a quote admittedly from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he says, "Every one of you is a leader." I'm sure not many of you are Muslims would agree with this. Every one of you is a leader, and you shall be asked about those whom you lead. So that's your which relationship is that? Do you remember?
IQ. SQ.
Your first one with your creator, right? The second is always keep your words. That's one of my favorites. Always keep your words soft and sweet in case you have to eat them. Right? So this is in collaborative skills when you're working with other people. It's very easy. There are a lot of what we now call keyboard warriors. Right? You get an email and you hate that email. What's your first mistake? You just type away, right? And you tell them how you feel. Right? But always remember that once an email goes out, it's out there. Right? Or once a message, or WhatsApp, whatever goes out, it's out there. Right? So always be careful. Take a step. If you're angry on getting a message from this, what's the first thing to do to me? Is put it down. As your instinct will always be and type on it. Put it down. Take a breather, sorry. And think about it again. This is exactly what it is. In case we have to hit them. Right? Third favorite is you must be the change you wish to see in the world. Is one of the most famous quotes of Mahatma Gandhi. Fourth is if you are successful, it's Melinda Gates of obviously former wife of Bill Gates. If you are successful, it is because somewhere, sometime, someone gave you a life or an idea that started you in the right direction. And this is about humility, about mental altitude as you go up. Always think where you started. Right? Always think about where you started. Because you didn't start at the top. You always start at the bottom. So always look down again as you're up there and say, I climbed X number of steps to get here. And there are a lot of people who actually backed me up as I went up. Right? That always keeps your humility. Next one, a leader's job, and this is Jack Welch. Leader's job is to look into the future, see the organization not as it is, but as it should be. And this is our vision. Jack Welch was a famous CEO of GE, right? Took it to all different directions on that, took it all the way to the top and all that. And I like this quote because this is about, as I said, about vision as a leader. That's one of the most important skills that you've got to have as a leader as well. It's not about, taking the organization to what it is already, but where it should be and where you want it to go. There are 4 ingredients in true leadership: brain, soul, heart, and goodness. That's another one again of managing altitude. Because as you go up, this sometimes brings you down as well. Right? You don't have goodness. Lastly, this is from Walt Disney: whatever you do it well. Do it well that when people see you do it, they want to come back and see you do it again. Right? So, I'll leave you with these quotes. I think this deck can be shared with everyone. Finally, I don't know if we have time for questions and answers, but I'll be ready to take questions as well. Thank you very much for listening to me. Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. Again, thank you for the honor of speaking to you this morning. Thank you very much.
thoughts to ponder, guys. This will be a good learning experience for me as well in preparing myself towards the future career development and how to become an effective leader. Does anyone have any question we can ask Mr. Kamal? Anyone? The back?
Can you hear my voice?
Yeah.
Okay, I have two questions. Okay, the first one. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm Nita, a lecturer as well. So I have two questions. My first question is about how you ensure that when you talk about leadership maturity as a leader, not only towards preparing yourself to the digitalization or digital expansion, how do you ensure that your people or the people have this readiness for change in this digital era? And then number two is that how do you ensure that when you talk about teamwork, the attitude and also the aptitude. So how do you ensure that it has to be synchronized in terms of attitude, aptitude, and altitude, so that teamwork is there? Thank you.
A difficult question for Sunday morning. Thank you. Thank you very much for the question. Very good questions as well. I'll take the second question first. I think how do we ensure that the team is aligned? I think that's the question. One of the skills that the leader must have, as I said just now, that it's a lot of other leaders as well, is listening. And that's one of the skills that a lot of leaders don't have. Right? Is the ability to listen. And that's about listening to everyone in the team, not just people who report to you or directly report to you, or people that you directly work with, but also to listen to others, listen to, well, obviously related to your work, right? And be able to then see through, as I said, this now, some of what you listen to is noise, or white noise, right? And then understand that what do people want? What are people asking for? What are your teammates asking for? What are people working for you asking for? And being able to say, some of these things I can do, some of these things I will let them do. Right? And that's how I think, at least that's how I've been doing in terms of making sure that there's a lot of teamwork. And they're also able to, you're also enabling people to listen to each other. It's very important as well, right? Because it's not about just you listening, but people need to also be able to listen to each other, understand what are the difficulties that people are facing at work. The 2 years, and I'm talking about 2019, 2020, and a bit of 2021, right? That most of us were hiding in our houses during that. So, taught us a lot of communication, taught us a lot about listening, right? Because that's when you couldn't see this guy. Sometimes ask them, buka la camera, nah lah, tak buka baju lah. Yeah. But you are then able to, at least those 2 years, at least to me and a lot of people days, where people then listen better. And that's what you need to hold a bit more. Right? You're not able to have physical contact and the closeness and everything, but I think that's the reality of the digital age as well. You now can have meetings with, when we operate in 6 other countries, and we have our weekly meetings sometimes 2-3 times a week with Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and all that. It used to be very difficult. You've got to schedule a time for them to fly in and all that. But with us being forced to use Zoom and TV and all that, you're able to communicate better now in terms of also listening. And that's the skill. So in answering that, I forgot the first question.
Readiness of people towards.
I see. That's a tough one as well. I mean, change has been there. I showed you, right, how the phone has changed over the years, right? From the year I started in telecommunications in 1994, and how phones have really changed. Used to the small phones was a craze that you could hide it in your pocket. But it has gone back to this, and the flip and all that now, and then big screens are back again. So the point of is change is constant. And it will always be there. And if you are not ready for change, you will get left behind. That's just the stark reality. And that's what, as a leader, you need to keep talking to people about. The readiness for change, it's not about readiness for change. Change will happen, like it or not. Right? And how you get them to go with the change. Not being ready, it's just, let's go, right? This needs to happen, this needs to be done. So, and sometimes it forces, I mean, the 2 years was also a big change in our lives, right? When we were in, MCO and all that. And it forced us to do a lot of things that we thought we would never be able to do, right? My wife attends mengaji classes, Quran classes. Before that, physically, but when the MCO happened, first for the first 2 months, nothing happened. Then nobody knew what to do, so we just upload and sad on that house. But so then after 2 months, the class mengaji became, people put it online mengaji. People had online. But her problem was, she was, I taught her everything well. Didn't need to teach her much because she knew from my daughters or better at this. But what she then became was she became a teacher to some of the other older masjids and masjids who were in the class. Right? And she became, so I said, wow, after a week, she became technical support for them. Like, then that was Zoom. And this taught a lot of people useful. And that's, like I said, it's not about being ready. Sometimes you're just forced to do it and you need to do it. Right? And that, I think, is the mental mindset that you need to get into your fellow workers or your fellow students. Right? That change is inevitable, it's constant, it will always happen whether you are ready. So there's no point of being ready. You just have to do it. Right? So I hope I answered that question.
So, any other questions? Now I would like to invite Mr. Tenko Ashraf, Executive Director of HSBS, and Mrs. Michelle Tom, CEO of MAHSA International College,